Shabbat Shalom. I'm Julie Marcus. I am the Vice President of Ways and Means, and I have a few announcements. Our annual meeting will be a virtual meeting this Sunday, June 13th at 4 p.m. Registration is open on the CNT website. If you can't join us, please find the digital version of the proxy form on the CNT website. Join Rabbi Axelrod for Judaism in 3D on Sunday, June 27th at 11 a.m. in person here at the temple. Do you want to get back to Judaism? Do you need a refresher course? Are you thinking of converting? Then join this 2-hour course where we will be learning about Jewish culture, holidays, and getting a fun tour of the temple with a peek behind the scenes. Registration will be live on Monday morning, so check the CNT website. Also, registration for religious school is now open. Please visit the CNT website to register. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube page. We're only 102 subscribers away from 1,000. Lastly, Onags are back right now in a take-home version and soon out on the patio together. Please contact Roberta Unger in the office if you would like to sponsor one. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Well, tomorrow morning we have a very special bar mitzvah. Rylan, please come up. As part of having a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, all the kids have a mitzvah project. And Rylan, you wanted to share a little bit with the congregation about that. So Cantor, come on up here, because I know what he's thinking. Where's my speech? That's it. Is that it? No? Well, is that a little bit, is it? Okay.
Please donate to the Animal Foundation for my bar mitzvah and help animals in need of food, water, and love. They protect and take care of neglected animals that have been abused or abandoned. Please give them anything that will help them, like dog toys, food, and money, or adopt an animal to be in your home so you can have something to take care of and love.
All right.
And how do they donate? Could they bring something here to the temple?
Yes, we have a box outside where you can put blankets or dog toys or food or money to donate to them and help the animals.
Great.
All right. Thanks, Rylan.
Thank you.
We'll see you a little bit later on in the service.
My buttercup came from there.
Well, lots of announcements. A few things still going on. I think Sunday is our annual meeting. And what you don't realize is by our bylaws, we need a quorum, which means if you've gotten that email, we need you to either sign on that you're going to be watching it by Zoom or mark that you give, is it Bob Unger? The proxy, all right? Otherwise, I don't know what will happen. We won't have an annual meeting. We can't have that. So everyone here, make sure you go back. Make sure you either watch or you grant the proxy. And speaking of just the webcasting system, I want you, Cantor, to explain to everyone we're like 80 likes short of what?
Of being able to go live whenever we want on YouTube. So we need to have 1,000 subscribers, not just viewers, but subscribers. So we have like 900 and something. So if you don't have a subscription to YouTube, go ahead and go on and look up Congregation Near to Me, like how you watch us every single week, and make sure it says subscribed. And there's a little bell sign. Now, I know I'm talking to you guys who are here in person, and there's a bunch of people online right now, actually a lot more than we've had. And I don't think it's COVID related. I think it's summer related, or my couch is comfortable related, which is fine. We're happy to have you and be in your living rooms with you.
That's right,
tonight.
but they're missing out on the oneg
They
tonight.
are.
That's
Like,
right.
you
So,
wait till
you
you see
know,
this
we're
oneg.
trying to bribe you to come back.
Yeah. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, if you're here in this room and you're not subscribed, just go onto YouTube, hit subscribe. And all it means is that every time we go live, you'll get a little notice on your phone or on your device that says, Congregation Near to Meet is live. So,
All right.
And the last thing that we should discuss is that it is now totally kosher for you to enroll or at least save your spot for our preschool. It is happening.
You mean I
And
can,
there'll be
I can
enrollment
take
forms
your
next
Emmett
week.
and I can enroll him?
If you want to pay for it.
Oh,
sure.
well, in that case, I'll let you have the honor.
Thank you. Yes, so if you know a preschooler, so ages 18 months to 4 years old, who needs a place to go during the day where it's super fun, then they should come here to CNT. So please find that on our website and sign up, save your spot.
Right. The preschool will be reopening in August, near the latter part of August.
August 9th, I think.
All right. Terrific. All right, Ricky, are you ready? All right, Cantor, here we go. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchoni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And now we invite up the Brown family for in honor of Ryland becoming bar mitzvah. Diane and Kevin and Ryland will light our Shabbat candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, and so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue on page 124. We read together, "We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a viable sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history, our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer." We continue on page 138. The Lachadodi, written by the mystics of Safad, talk about that beautiful relationship between the Sabbath and the people of Israel. 138.
And this particular setting written by my mentor, Cantor Stephen Richards.
Lecha dodi likrot kala pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrot kala pnei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmi'anu el ha'miochad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem ultiferet v'litilah Lecha dodi likrot kala pnei Shabbat nekabela likrot Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor ha'beracha mirosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila lecha dodi likrot kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. We rise to greet the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לך pnei Shabbat nekabela. We remain standing for the Baruch Hu, page 146. To my prayer, can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai.
We continue on page 152 with Shema.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha ve'chol me'ashecha uve'kol me'odecha ve'hayu hanvarim ha'ele asher anohim misavecha hayom ha'levanecha ve'shinata levanecha Bidibartam bam Veshineta leteha Uflecteha vadere Ushateha ukumeha Ushatim leo kaivadeha Vehayunototafo bemeneha Utatam Amisizo feteha Uvishareha Leman Tishkeru Vasitem Neko Mitzvotai Item Keloshim Elohehem Ani Adonai Elohehem Asher Setietem Neres Risraim Lilok Tahem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohehem Adonai Elohehem Emet. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught. Before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, at wherever we go, it is internally Egypt that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Umalchuto beratzon kibelu alehem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael echanu shira B'simcha rabba ve'amru chulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot O sefele I want to hear you Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot O sefele. All right, so I got to stop you because we never get this clap right whenever we do this Mi Chamocha, which I know isn't very often, but here's how it goes. Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Clap, 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 clap. Okay, let's just try that with Ricky, okay? Here we go. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Clap, 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 clap. Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Oh, let's make sure it wasn't a mistake. Let's do it one more time. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Clap, 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 clap. Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Excellent. Okay, so when you hear that Mi chamocha, you now know where to clap. Okay? If I sit here go like this, I look really silly. But if you're clapping, it's not as silly. So, All right, thank you. Okay, you can sit down. Page 160, 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu leshalom, Ve'ha'amidenu Shomrenu lechaim, Ufros aleinu Sukkot shlomecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. We continue on page 164 with the Amidah. Please rise.
Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agit tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, 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 Elohei Abraham, Elohei Isa, Elohei Aho, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagador, Hamivor Damara, Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovim Milamehaho, Hisanera Seya brought me Ma'o, Umehi Hibulam Imne Venehem, Heman Shivo Abraham, Melech Nasir Umeshia Umagain, Baruch atah Adonai, Elgain
Abraham Bezrat Sarah.
Gibor Leolam Adonai, Vehayeha Kol, Atara Leoshia, Maogrid Hafta, Mehakel Hayim Melhese, Hayeha Ho Mel Rahami Rahim, Somech Nolim Elohe Olim, Umatir Asherim, Umehaye El Min Vishene aha. Mihamoha malirut. Umidon lela. Melechmani humahaye. Umatia Yeshua. Ayotako. Baruch atah Adonai. Ehaye ha-ho.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue in personal prayer using the words on the right or the left side of the page or the words within your heart. When you have completed your prayers, please be seated. At this time, we ask that you, if you're watching via Facebook or YouTube, you submit the names of those you are thinking of for Misha Berach prayer, prayers for healing.
The power of prayer is the power to know that when you are ill, you are not alone. Prayer is not magic. If it were, no one would ever be sick, no one would die. But with prayer, it relieves the suffering, it emboldens the spirit, it gives us a sense of hope that life is worth living and that we are not alone. And so we think especially of those in our circle of family and friends who are in need of our prayers. And when we say their names, they know that we are thinking of them. And we think too of caregivers who give of themselves tirelessly, that the people they care about most are given their love and most difficult time. There are those who suffer of matters of the heart and of the mind, who struggle with addictions. All of these are part of our prayers tonight. And we think especially of these whose names have been submitted to the synagogue: Irvin Zaid, Regina Baker, Derek Baker, Eli Bott, Shachaf and Sigalit, Sharna Blumenfeld, Barbara Rabin, Bessie De La Miera, Vivian Van Dusen, Sonny Spiewak, and Jake Whitley. Are there other names that you would like to say? Simply stand and say their name.
Gary Bernstein, Rocky Bernstein, Frank Ellison Jr., Naima Clark, Kimberly Jones, Jason. Donald Schwartz, Maria Galindo, Beverly Aronofsky, Jean Schneider, Adira Rosenbaum Jones, Clay Tarika, Mark Harrison.
As we think all these, we join together in our Misha Barak prayer. If you'd like to, please rise.
Misha Barak Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. I think we should celebrate. We've prayed for
Celebrate.
healing, and now it's time to celebrate birthdays.
Birthday, it's birthday Shabbat.
What month are we in? Oh, yeah, June.
All right. Is there anyone here who has a birthday in June? No?
Yeah.
Come on up. Lisa, you get to come up. She's going, oh, darn it.
Nobody else is born in June. Okay.
How about in the webcast?
Oh, let's see. Anybody?
Submit your name if you were born in the month of June. My father was born June 1st. If he were still alive, this would be his 100th birthday. So he is still remembered with love and fondness by our family.
It's my sister's birthday this month.
Oh, so I'm sure she's on the webcast then.
She's
She better
celebrating
be.
with her friends in Big Bear, so I don't think she is, but maybe she'll watch it later.
All right. So when is your birthday?
June 5th.
June 5th. We just missed it, but that's good. You're here.
You know who else's birthday is in June? Very important person.
Who?
Lee Posey.
Lee? Where is
He's
Lee?
the same day as my sister, actually.
Okay. Well, there you go. Separated at birth.
Yes, definitely.
All right. All right. So we always ask the folks who come up for birthday, think back to all the birthdays that you've celebrated. Is there one that sticks out the most?
I guess my 10th birthday. It was a big deal growing up in my house, and I remember that all I ever wanted was a bike so I can get around on my own, and that morning showed up the orange Schwinn bike, and I remember that to this minute.
All right. How many of you had a Schwinn bike? I did. Yep. All right. So the last question is, do you have a lesson, a life lesson that you've learned having reached this time in your life?
Life lesson. I think really the life lesson is to just try and find joy in something all the time. No matter how bad anything gets, you have to stop for a second, think, and find where that one spark of joy is.
Wonderful. All right.
Agreed.
Let's celebrate at least a little Simon Tov.
Sure, here we go.
All right.
Everybody help us out.
Simon
Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Yehelanu, 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 Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael.
You know what? I think we should have a special oneg.
Sure.
They said we're having blizzards.
Not just ice cream, but blizzards.
Yes, not just ice cream, but blizzards. Dairy cream blizzards. It's going to be great.
I was explaining blizzards to someone who had never had a blizzard, and they were like, "Are you serious?"
All right. So in a moment, I'm going to invite onto our bema a familiar face in our congregation, a member of our board, but also someone who we are especially proud of, Jolie Brislin. So I'm going to snatch a few things, but Jolie, you can start making your way up here. And this is from her bio. Jolie Brislin grew up in congregation near Tamid and used that as a launching pad for fame and fortune as she has become the regional director of the Anti-Defamation League's Nevada region since 2008. She works closely with staff and lay leaders to implement various programs that focus on anti-Semitism and an array of civil rights issues, and one of the most important being ADL's anti-bias programs in Nevada schools. She also collaborates with law enforcement, elected officials, and community members to build bridges of communication that focus on understanding and respect among diverse groups. ADL's law enforcement, education, and interfaith programs are her top priority. All right. Now, Jolie, I forgot to pre-interview you. We have to try to get them to guess something they don't know about you. All right?
I feel like I know so many people.
All right. Where did Jolie go to college? You ready? She went to UCLA. She went to UNLV. She went to UNR, or the last choice is other. UCLA, UNLV, UNR. And
Go
the answer is
Go Wolfpack!
Go Wolfpack, UNR. All right. Anyone else here who went to UNR? No?
We won't hold that against you.
My wife went there. It's a great school. All right. So one little thing, and you have a daughter?
I have a daughter.
That's right. What's the name of her daughter? Is it, well, go ahead, say it. All right. See, your daughter is more famous than where you went to college. What does that say? What's the most important thing?
Well, she is homesick right now, so I'm sure she's watching, and this is probably like
So
very much more near her heart.
that's a shout out to her. So Jolie and I were talking, and listen, you know, when someone is around the congregation all the time, you go, oh yeah, she would be a great speaker at the congregation, because there has been, unfortunately, an uptick in anti-Semitism. And so we decided, rather than a formal presentation, we would do something informal. A conversation is just pretend that we are in a coffee bean and tea, a coffee shop, and we're talking about something that concerns us all. And before I get with Jolie, how many people here have had a conversation with someone, I'd say in the last few weeks, about the rise of anti-Semitism? Just about everybody here. It's on our minds, is it not? And what is it? I mean, I think you quoted a statistic to me. What's the rise? I mean, it's real. It's pronounced and real. What's the?
It's definitely real. So throughout the United States, we've seen over 115% increase in the last 6 weeks.
And they say from now compared to what, last year or the year before?
So this is actually just within the last 6 weeks that we're talking about. We're not talking about an audit of anti-Semitic incidents in year-over-year increase, which we have seen, but we are just talking about within the last 6 weeks since the conflict in Israel that we've seen this increase of anti-Semitic incidents. And another interesting statistic is that in the UK, what do you think the percentage of the increase of anti-Semitic incidents in the United Kingdom is? 300? 250%. They are scared, very much like those of us in the United States and around the world.
So we all know the jokes. You know, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. We know that anti-Semitism is probably the oldest hate. Goes back, we were counted at the time of Passover. And so it's that thing that is always with us. But then there are periods of lull where we know it's there, but okay. And somehow we keep climbing in America and we achieve success. But then there are times when we feel especially vulnerable. And I would say right now is a time when a lot of people, and you could see by the show of hands, people are talking about it again. What's changed, Jolie? What's going on?
So anti-Semitism has always existed, right? It's always been the underlying, the oldest hate.
It's as old as the Jews, unfortunately.
Right. But in the past 6 weeks especially, right, because we're just talking about the current uptick of anti-Semitism. If we want to go back and talk within the past year over year, if you want to talk about a specific incident, like those, I'm happy to sit and talk about those. But let's just really focus on where we are right this second. And it's really the catalyst of what we're seeing in the Middle East. It's the fact that we're seeing Jews around the country be held accountable to the policies and the politics of Israel. And listen, we should be very clear that Israel is a democratic country, right? Like, we can criticize the policies, we can criticize the government, you can have whatever feelings you have about Bibi, but the minute that you start attacking Jews in the synagogue, in a kosher restaurant, in a Jewish community center, that is clearly, blatantly anti-Semitic. So,
anti-Semitism is morphed, right? So it started as xenophobia. We see that in the Bible. Then, with the advent of Christianity, Jews are Christ killers. The Nazis, what do? They make us a race, and they want to purify the race. Ironically, when Theodor Herzl wanted to revive the modern state of Israel, he did it in response to the anti-Semitism in France that he witnessed, and he said, we need our own place. If we have our own place, they'll stop persecuting us. They'll stop kicking us out of this country and that country. And so the irony is, ever since Israel has become a nation, a new form of anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism has come to the fray. And so we feel it now, but I'm thinking about when I was in college, and they said, Zionism is racism. How many of you can remember that far back, right? The UN resolution, that terrible resolution, Zionism is racism. But even though every time there's a war in the Middle East, we feel a little bit more vulnerable, this time it changed. This time I think we felt vulnerable in a different way, and you touched upon it, because even though Jews are associated with Israel, this time somehow people began to equate whatever prejudice they have against Israel with Jews who live in America. And they started taking it out physically on Jews. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, and too, like, we're all on social media. I think I'm friends with most of you on Facebook, and I follow some of you on Twitter and Instagram. And so the way that we're communicating this anti-Semitism and how blatant it is, and it's in our face consistently, right, is very different than in the past years. So the rise of social media, the lens of putting, the American lens that we try to put on Israel, which, is how do you possibly put an American lens on a country where their neighbors are very different than Canada and Mexico? But we're trying to equate the two, and we just can't.
But I think that's one of the challenges, right? So you have a lot of groups. Some of them are in alliance with Jews, and now they are taking their lens of the issues that take place in America, and they are transporting it to Israel. And therefore they're saying, you know, the Palestinians are the victims, and Israel is the Goliath, and they are the oppressor. And then they take their own personal grievances in America and they sub out. And with that, there's now troubling. It's in the politics, it's in the social talk, it's in social media, and it's not only disappointing, it's scary because some of the folks that have always supported Israel, it started to slip. And not only that, some of the young Jews who should be lovers of Israel, right? They're part of the problem. And we have to do a better job educating young people who are Jewish to love Israel.
Right. So, you know, we've always been, not always, but we've been talking a lot about in years, you know, the anti-Semitism that we see on the right? And the right-wing extremism. But we need to be addressing the anti-Semitism that we see on the left and the anti-Israel, and when that does seep into anti-Semitism. Because again, it's not, all anti-Israel is not anti-Semitism. Like, I want to be very clear on that. But one of the things that we're seeing now that's very different than in the past years is I think it's because of the systemic uprising, the social justice uprising that we've been kind of experiencing in this past year, and trying to become more educated and figuring out how can we be better allies, and when are we like not checking hate in other communities. And so people within the Jewish community who, mostly like younger people, I think, who don't have that connection to Israel are starting to like put that, again, equate that to maybe like George Floyd and trying to put that lens on it. And you can't put the two, you know, you can't, one does not equal the other, but that's what we've been seeing. And so that's what we need to be educating about. And on college campuses, right, where we see so much hate happening and anti-Semitism brewing and Jewish students having to defend themselves, right? Like, most of us did not go to college and feel that we were having to defend the politics and policies of Israel as a Jew. And today, these young students are feeling like that, and many of them are saying, listen, I don't want to take responsibility for another country, so I'm just going to step away. And so we're starting to see, you know, that disconnect within the diaspora as well.
Well, Bill Maher said, you can't learn the history of the Jewish people on Instagram. And that's in a nutshell that the young Jews who really intend to do well, they need to be better versed and better connected to Medinat Yisrael. And that's part of it, because their heart is in the right place to love all people and to have a more loving and caring world. And yet, you can't deny the history of the region and some of the problems that can't be solved by simple slogans. And at the same time, you got to admire the fact that the next generation always begins with a sense of hope, and if they didn't, where would we be? But here we are. And so what can we do about it?
So often what I personally see, and I don't know if anybody else ever feels like this, is that you don't say anything when you see it because you just don't know what to say, right? And so I would urge you to look at the ADL website, of course, but to really educate yourself on how to speak up, right? When you're able to identify what is anti-Israel versus anti-Zionism versus anti-Semitism, and be able to identify that, so that way you're empowered to like have that knowledge to have those conversations. But we also need to be working with our elected officials and our stakeholders and our community members. And Rabbi Axelrod and I sit on the Interfaith Council. And we had a conversation yesterday, you know, really explaining to them where Jews within Nevada, what Jews in Nevada are feeling right now.
This is a big interfaith council. We've got about 12 different religions. And so obviously our core principles of what makes our faith unique is different. But there's an overarching sense of trust and desire to find that which binds us together. That's how you can do interfaith. That's the only way you can do it. The only way. You find what is it that we have in common. And Jolie spoke up and she said, you know, it's been a long summer and we haven't been in person in a long time, But I got to tell you, we as a Jewish community, we feel a little bit isolated and alone. And, you know, I'm looking at the people on Zoom, granted, but they're wondering, what's she talking about? But her voice was heard. They're going to come up with a resolution of support and condemning anti-Semitism. And maybe it's not the first thing in their mind. I think they're thinking about the virus. They're thinking about their summer vacations. This is not like the Tree of Life where it was all over the press. It's all over the Jewish press, right? So we read about it all the time. But what we need to do is build alliances among other people. It's one thing for us as Jews to condemn anti-Semitism. It's so much more powerful when the non-Jewish community stands up and says, this is wrong, not in my town, not in my community. Out of curiosity, how many people here have experienced anti-Semitism either at work or with friends or wherever within, I would say, just the last year? Raise your hand. All right, look at that. How about in your lifetime? Yeah, just about everybody in your lifetime. So when Jolie quotes these statistics, I'm sure most of you have not gotten on the phone and said, ADL, here's what happened to me, and then they mark it down. So this statistic is almost a mirror of a pulse. So if they have 1,000 incidences, it could be 5,000. If it's 5,000, it could be even more, because most people don't report it. But it's there. And thank God we have an organization like ADL that educates and empowers. And you had 2 legislative successes that are really important.
Yeah.
AB 231 and AB 296. What are they about?
So I'm very proud of both of these pieces of legislation. And it's, you know, as I look back at where we are today, we didn't know when we initially introduced and drafted these pieces of legislation how prevalent and relevant they were going to be today, So the first one was a Holocaust education bill. And we're really pleased that we were able to make this into a community partnership with the Federation and ICAN, and really try to promote this. We worked with the Armenian community, and we educated. I had over 72 lobbying meetings with elected officials on Holocaust education.
Was it that difficult, or it was just to educate them?
It was just to educate them. We really found we had unanimous support, which is, you know, really heartfelt.
At the heart of it, what was it? To define what genocide was and what Holocaust was? What was the heart?
It created definitions on what is Holocaust, what is a genocide, which at this moment, I think, as a Jewish community, like, that's a really important step.
I mean, how often have you heard everyone said, you're like a Nazi, right? And you know, this is another Holocaust, and they just bandy it about as if to throw it in our place, another variation of anti-Semitism, but also trying to rob us of our history. So how is this going to help?
So now we have definitions on what's a Holocaust, what's a genocide, based upon the U.S. Holocaust Museum that didn't exist before. We're also having dialogue with the Department of Education and School District, which, believe it or not, did not exist before. So now there is a committee headed by the superintendent of the state with all school districts to come to the table with nonprofit organizations and for us to have this dialogue on what resources do we have that we can provide, but most importantly, how are they teaching the Holocaust within our school? What resources are they using? What curriculum are they using? And so creating this dialogue, very much like what we just talked about, the Interfaith Council, right, is how we get to that change, and we're able to kind of have a better understanding and a pulse of what's taking place in all of these schools. So it's a really great first step, and I think it's actually more beneficial than even if it was a full mandate, because we need this communication. And then the second bill we had was a cyber hate bill. We see the rise of online hate, right? Especially, you know, it's been so high. And just, I'll tell you guys in a second. But so what this bill is, it's a civil bill. We want to make it a criminal eventually, but if you take someone's information, and I put Rabbi Axelrod's information online, and I say, this is Rabbi Axelrod from CNT, and
he accused me of all kinds of villainous things.
And I said, go and get him, and someone went to his house and attacked him, you can now press charges. So.
Yeah, so not just freedom of speech, but she had some impassioned speakers come forward who, were public officials who were doing their duty, and they got targeted in social media, and their very lives were at stake. So this is a very important
Before
bill.
we end, and when we have conversations on the phone, I think they go for like 50 minutes or 60 minutes. And
That's right.
finally
We
we're
only
like,
have 10 minutes
we
here,
have to
right?
go, and he's only giving me 10 minutes, but we could do this all day.
Yeah.
I just want to end. I just want to give a little bit more statistics of what we're seeing here locally, right? So online, overall, we're seeing this increase of 15% of anti-Semitic incidents in the country. We've seen over 18,000 tweets on the fact that Hitler did not succeed. And locally, we're seeing all of this, as well as we're seeing flyers taking place today. There was flyers that were all over the valley that Israel committed 9/11. We are seeing students in schools putting swastikas down their arm and going up to Jewish students and saying Hitler didn't finish the job. We're seeing...
we had some white supremacists
Yep.
flyers and posters put right outside, not on the synagogue property, but right next to the synagogue property.
Right.
This
And
was about 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
we're seeing people who are wearing masks that have Jewish stars walking through grocery stores being spit on. I mean, these are real problems. So when Rabbi says that, this is, we need to report it, we need to report this. We need to report it to law enforcement, but we also need to report it to the ADL, because really data drives policy. And I can't tell you, I had a conversation this week with law enforcement who, by the way, I just want to thank publicly. We are so lucky to have the relationships we do with law enforcement throughout the state, and Henderson PD, who's here tonight, and Las Vegas Metro and the Fusion Center. We have really great, and Henderson, our Reno PD, we have really great relationships with law enforcement, and they are our ally and our partner, and we're so thankful for them. But not everything is a crime. So sometimes we see things and we keep walking by and we think, who are we going to really tell about this? So you need to report that to ADL. I had a conversation with law enforcement, and they said, well, the Jewish community is actually doing well. We're not really getting, many incidents. And I go, well, let me share with you the last 10 that I've gotten within the past week. And they go, we had no idea. We had no idea. So what ADL does is we share that data with our law enforcement, we share it with our elected officials, we share it with our community. And so we really need people to go to adl.org when an incident takes place and report it. Even if you think it's something small, it goes into that data, that goes into that conversation.
All right. Thank you, Jolie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And I hope that, part of the solution in supporting ADL, and let's work together to do the best that we can to create alliances, support the political process, and be proud to stand up because we're Jews. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Thank you, Jolie. I was thinking back to the trip that we took to Germany and how amazed in a good way I was about so many non-Jewish people that are well educated on the Holocaust and how to fight anti-Semitism. It was eye-opening in such a good way, and I hope that the work that ADL does and these bills that have been passed can help us to go into that direction. All right, we begin to conclude our service on page 586 with the Holocaust. With the Holocaust.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the Holocaust now.
Now, that will go in the blooper history. No. Poo, poo, poo. We conclude with the
Anyway,
Aleinu,
Aleinu.
586.
Which means
Please
it is
run.
on us to make change. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. If If there are names of people that you are thinking of tonight for Kaddish, or is the anniversary of their death and is the Yortzeit, we would like to say those names aloud now. You can put them in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube.
So we say Kaddish for Janet Barshke, Marty Winnick, Flory Sassner, Arthur Fink, Alfred Braunschweiger. We recall the Yortzeits of Morris Aronoff, Miriam Auerbach, Blanche Auspitz, Ruby Berman, Helen Berman, Nathan Beller, Ivan Buchbinder, Esther Cohen, Adam Cohen, Retta Friedman, Eileen Gannon, Adolf Glansberg, Frida Glansberg, Rosalind Goldberg, David Greenspun, Max Gross, Shirley Hoffman, Paul Ingber, Isla Jensen, Sue Kabakoff, Rose Kestenbaum, Rabbi William Kramer, Leon Levine, Michelle Magalnik, Robert McGraw, Irving Myers, Al Ostrov, Betty Rosen, Dora Salmon, Sarah Saltzman, Sydney Schachter, Indy Sheldon, Harriet Simon, Edith Stein, Minerva Sternberg, Shirley Unger, Jerome Unger, Yale A. Weissman, Nissim Yachbes, Esther Zimmerman, Jacob Zolowicz.
Look to our congregation if there are any names that we have not mentioned tonight. Sue Harrison. Joyce Libby Jones.
As we think of all these and others, we rise to recite Kaddish. 598. Yit Gadol v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'yalma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed achol beit Yisrael v'agalav izman kari v'imru amen Yeheshmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit ba'ar v'yit ramam v'yit naseh v'yit tadar v'yit taleh v'yit talal shmei dekusha b'richu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata damiram b'alma v'imru amen Yeheshlam Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen O say shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael Vimaru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. May be seated. We join together in the bracha over the wine and the challah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen.
Just go ahead and bring this back afterwards. Bring the challah back to where the
Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Motzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen.
I don't think I've ever seen his face. Look at it. There's our bar mitzvah.
That's cute.
Yeah. We'll let you have a bar mitzvah. All right, where are we going to have the oneg? Do you know?
I'm assuming that way.
Fred, maybe you can open those back double doors. Let's make sure I'm directing them to the right
You guys
place.
got to move fast because it's ice cream and it'll melt. So
that the
There
place?
it is. Yeah, there
All right.
it is.
Fred
All right.
says that's where the ice cream is.
All right, so thank you to Dr. Fred Toffel for opening the doors. Thank you.
That's a new mitzvah.
Thank you to Della Costa, our shamus. Thank you to Rabbi Axelrod for his
Jolie.
wisdom. Jolie Brislin, our bar mitzvah, Ryland, and Julie Marcus, our board member sitting on the bima giving us announcements. Ricky Reinhart on the piano. Alex Hill on our sound. Did I miss anybody? Eddie Simon,
Eddie
our
Simon.
executive director.
Yeah.
Lee Posey. And all of you for being here, both on our web stream and here live in person. It's good live in person if you want to try it, if you haven't been in a while. So
All right. We're going to sing them out with Olam Chesed.
we will build this world from love. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. 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 I will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. And you must build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. And if we build this world from love, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, then God will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good Shabbos. Enjoy the Oneg Shabbat.
Yeah, if you're here only virtually, no blizzards for you. Hope we'll see you next week.